Now in today's video, we're going to be looking at my top transfer targets ahead of blank game week 29. Now before we dive into today's video, of course, if you do enjoy any of the content that you see on the channel, please be sure to like, comment and subscribe, as we are trying to hit 12,500 subscribers by the end of the season, and it isn't possible without your guys' amazing support. As always, we like to start off our transfer targets video taking a look at the next game week. Of course, game week 29, if you didn't know, is a blank game week. If you've been living under a rock, you've not realised, maybe you've just opened the FPL app for the first time, looking ahead at next week, you've seen so many players have a blank game week. Don't worry, we've got you covered in today's video. Of course, Liverpool, Newcastle, Aston Villa and Crystal Palace do blank, leaving us with the remaining 8 fixtures, as you can see on screen. The big standouts this week for me are probably going to be Manchester City, Brighton, Southampton, Wolves, Ipswich versus Forest. Then you probably got Arsenal, Chelsea as your enjoyable game to watch, and then Leicester, Manchester United at 7 o'clock in the evening. Another one we potentially could be looking to target this game week, but obviously a lot less fixtures. People are going to be doing the free hit. Of course, I did bring out a video last night regarding the free hit and of course my potential team, but this video is more going to be focused on people that aren't going to free hit, probably going to be wildcarding in the next few weeks, or if you haven't got a wildcard, looking ahead at, of course, potential transfer targets for you to make with your team, of course, with this blank game week in mind, and of course the double game weeks coming up in 32, 33, and then probably the blanks beyond that, and there'll also further double game weeks as well. Lots going off in FPL, so of course, like I said, if you do enjoy the content, make sure you're hitting that subscribe button. It does mean a lot to me. Let's first off start off then, as we always do with our transfer targets videos, and take a look at the 11ify data for the next 5 game weeks. Of course, if you want to go and check out their amazing website, I will leave a link in the description. Taking a look, Arsenal look like really good investments, especially defensively over the next few weeks, with some strong projected numbers, to be honest. Gabriel, I think as well, is the second or might even be top over the next 3 game weeks in terms of projected points for defenders as well, which is absolutely ridiculous, and a player that I'm actually going to be looking to pick up as one of my Trent replacements as well, which is obviously, you know, quite a lot of people already have Gabriel or Raya, but again, the Arsenal defence is looking very good. Of course, maybe if you've not got Trent Alexander-Arnold this week, he's not available, and you want to bench him, that's perfectly acceptable thing to do with some strong projected clean sheets coming up. However, I think the more kind of upside move is going to be switching to somebody like Gavardiol over the next few weeks. As you can see, similar-ish numbers. Of course, then they have the advantage of a fixture in 29 with decent projected clean sheet odds, the second highest for that game week according to 11ify. Then, of course, City do have future double game weeks coming up, and I think he is going to be a popular player on wildcards over the next few weeks. Looking ahead as well down the list, we've got Bournemouth. Obviously, we'll be taking a look at some of their players. They've got Kirkez and Hudson as potential options. Forest's games coming up as well aren't too bad, obviously, this week. 33%, the 4th highest on this list with Ipswich away. Obviously, people might already have Aina or Sells. There's Mikalenkovic, there's Williams, there's plenty of decent options to go with there. A lot of people are going to be looking at 8 Nuri as well coming up over the next few weeks. Some good numbers across the board for the next 3 fixtures as well for Wolves. So I definitely think he could be a really decent option. I do want to just caveat, I am filming this before the Wolves game has taken place. I know it's coming out on Sunday morning, but I am actually filming it before the Wolves game does take place. So if he has picked up any injuries, do of course just make sure, I'll put something in the comments just to kind of offer other alternatives, of course, if that was to be the case. Let's look then at the projected goal numbers, again coming from 11ify. Looking at game week 29, Manchester City top of that list, and that is the reason I think when we talked about Haaland a little bit later in today's video, that is kind of one of the pushing factors alongside projected points. I know his recent performances have been a little bit hit and miss, especially today against Nottingham Forest. Wasn't the most ideal fixture. However, as we can see, game week 30, top of the projected goals are Manchester City, and I do think Erling Haaland will rival Mohamed Salah as a potential captaincy option, with of course Salah having Leicester and Everton at home and Manchester City having Everton at home. So both have decent fixtures. I still probably think most people, after today's performance and kind of the form that Mohamed Salah's in this season, will still go towards Mohamed Salah, but it's nice to have that option every single week that you could go for somebody else. And maybe if you're chasing rank, this could be the point where you do switch to Erling Haaland, back in for the next 2 weeks in terms of captaincy, and potentially get your season back on track, because this is probably going to be one of the lowest points of ownership this season we're going to see from him. I do think it is going to increase, of course, with a fixture in 29, good fixture in 30, and doubles coming up for Manchester City in potentially 33 and 36. Arsenal's numbers as well look okay, so maybe somebody like a Nawari or a Trossard could be a decent bet if you wanted to go, of course, down that route. Bournemouth's numbers as well are looking pretty steady across the board, so I think people like Kluivert, not Dango. Obviously, again, we're filming this before the Bournemouth game. We don't know if he's going to play, but there's rumours that he's actually taken himself out of his own FPL team, so I don't think he's really going to be an option over the next few weeks. So yeah, I probably would avoid in terms of him. Wolves' numbers look okay. Obviously, it would have been great to have Cunha available, but that's not going to be the case. So maybe a punt on somebody like a Strand Larsen could be worth it. But I don't think he's that guy, to be honest. Maybe he could prove me wrong, and I'm maybe looking back, this video is going to have egg on my face. But right at the time of recording, I just don't think he is going to be a decent enough option for me to personally consider. Let's head on then into our first set of transfer targets, and I'm going to talk about defenders. I feel like a lot of people this week, if they aren't free hitting, are going to be in the market for defenders. Of course, we've not got Trent available. We've not got Munoz available. Of course, both of these guys have been absolutely sensational over the past few weeks, and I've seen them in a lot of your kind of the teams that people send me on deadline streams and stuff like that. So I obviously know that a lot of people, and speaking to my friends as well, everybody's looking at defenders and which ones to go and bring in this week. So let's run through some of my favourites I would be looking at. For me, I think Gvardiol and Aït-Nouri are my number 1 and 2. Let's first off start off with Gvardiol. Like I said, with the Manchester City fixtures, as we saw in the last section, the 11-5 clean sheet numbers coming up are really, really good coming up for Manchester City. They have the standout fixture of game week 30 as well with Leicester at home. A really, really good fixture. Of course, he has the second best expected goal involvement per 90 as well, which is absolutely ridiculous, behind Trent Alexander-Arnold. And now you factor in that he's going to be getting double game weeks on the horizon, plays in a blank game week. I think there's a lot going towards Gvardiol being a really, really good pickup. As you can see as well, top on the predicted points out of all the other recommendations in today's video. Heading into second on those predicted points is going to be Aït-Nouri. Like I said, I have filmed this before the Wolves game has taken place, but with those next 3 fixtures coming up, you really could see Wolves keeping three clean sheets across the board. Now, of course, if the Southampton and Ipswich game, either one of those was at home, I'd feel a lot more kind of bullish towards him. But 8 goal involvements, really, really good expected goal involvement numbers as well, considering his price point at 4.7 million. Second on the projected points. And again, I think if I'm in the market for a budget defender for the next few weeks up until I wildcard in 31 or 30, I think Aït-Nouri definitely could be that guy. The 11-5 numbers weren't terrific, but they weren't dreadful. And I think sometimes he could probably pull that back with, of course, his attacking intent. Like I said, the best expected goal, the best goal involvement numbers on this list out of the bunch. Kerkez or Hudson, I think it's kind of a toss-up between either. I'm not overly impressed with Kerkez's actual expected goal involvement numbers per 90. The lowest on this list at 0.090. Hudson's aren't too much better. I think he's obviously outperformed it with his goal involvements of 6. But back-to-back home games for Bournemouth could be absolutely huge over this period. Brentford and Ipswich as well. Obviously, we know Brentford are a pretty decent attacking side this season. And I wouldn't rule it out that, maybe they do get themselves a goal. However, for me personally, I think, Kerkez's fixture over the next 3 are really, really good. And I really think any sort of investment into Bournemouth defence is going to be worthwhile over the next few weeks. The reason that I've put him so low down on my personal list is I already feel like quite a few people have a Bournemouth defender. Now, I wouldn't be recommending the double up. I don't think they're a strong enough defence to go and do that. So like I said, that's probably why he's in this position, purely down to the fact that I feel like most people already own at least one Bournemouth defender. I don't think it's going to be worth the double up. But if you don't, then he definitely falls into that category and really runs, I would say, Aït-Nouri and Gvardiol close for their money as well. 5 million, or you could go and get Hudson as well, who's a little bit cheaper and also a very, very stable pickup. There's actually not too much in terms of predicted points to split between Aït-Nouri, Kerkez and Milenkovic. It really could just be down to one attacking return that sways it. For me personally. Finally, it is going to be Milenkovic. The reason I've put him in here, Forest again, another clean sheet today. They've been absolutely class at that all season. Ipswich in 29 is obviously the fixture that most people are going to see, but I don't think the Manchester United fixture in 30 is woeful either. He definitely could get away with playing a Forest defender in that one. Villa away, this probably would be for the people that are looking to wildcard in 31 to, of course, get him back out of the side. So for the next 2, I don't mind it. The only thing that does put me off is the fact that he is a centre-back. Now, he definitely gets opportunities from corners and free kicks, and as we can see, better actual expected goal involvement per 90 than Kerkez, sorry. However, Kerkez, for me, massively passes the eye test over him. Same with Aït-Nouri, same with Gvardiol. And I think when things are going to be this tight over the next few weeks, I would rather just take that punt on a more attacking player like an Aït-Nouri, like a Kerkez, rather than a Mikalenkovic or a Nico Williams for me. They're good, probably going to get good defensive numbers. However, I just think I would prefer going for Aït-Nouri, Kerkez or Gvardiol over kind of a Forest defender. And I feel a lot of us already probably own at least maybe Aina, Sells, so we're not really looking for that double up in terms of Forest defence. Of course, for the people that are on a free hit, my favourite options are probably going to be Gvardiol, Aït-Nouri and Mikalenkovic for this game week as well. Those were the three that I did include on my free hit draft as well. Let's keep this show cooking. Let's head on to the next section. We're going to discuss Erling Haaland. Obviously, in my deadline stream today, I was kind of going through everything, talking about how I'm planning on bringing him in, taking out Palmer, switching to Erling Haaland. And the main appeal of that was, of course, the next 2 game weeks. I do feel he offers himself up as the best captain in either of these weeks. Obviously, game week 30, Salah's back and has Everton, which is also a pretty decent fixture. But as we saw from the 11-5 projected numbers, Manchester City are actually on top of that by quite a distance as well. And it'd be interesting to see what the bookmakers make of that fixture as well, and how kind of positive they're going to be towards Manchester City and towards Erling Haaland. And if it's a long shot compared to what, Salah's going to be, I definitely think he is going to run him close in terms of my mind, in terms of that captaincy. Game week 29, though, he's top on the Fantasy Football Hub predicted points just for that singular game week. So I do think having him in for the next 2 weeks as a captain option is definitely going to be worth it. But Manchester United, not a bad fixture in game week 31. Of course, then they will have doubles coming up in 33 and 36. So it is going to be a wait and see. But I think for the people that do have the wild card in the back pocket, they've always got that get out of jail kind of free card in game week 31 if this move doesn't work out. Or, of course, Marouche, I can't say his name even correctly at any point on these videos, starts to turn up. He maybe looks a better option. Maybe we look at somebody like a Foden or a Savinho in terms of our wildcard picks, rather than spending the 14.7 million. The big problem with Haaland is this season is that price point, because you need him to be doing something every single week, and to justify that price point, he does need to be your captains most weeks. Now, over the next 2, if you're wildcarding in 31, he definitely does offer that opportunity, so I do think it's worth it. However, the problem is, longer term, is he still going to be justifying that price point? The fixtures for City definitely are there, definitely with the double game weeks coming up as well. He does represent a really, really good option, and I think a lot of people are going to have hard decisions on whether or not to bring him back in, purely down to the price point, purely down to the sacrifices we're going to be making. But I think if you've got that wild card in your back pocket for game week 31, I would be looking to try and get him in for 29, captain him in game week 29, see what he can do. If he looks good for game week 30, of course against Leicester, then I would recommend going for it. Let's stick with him. Let's have him on the wild card. Let's attack those City doubles when, of course, they do get announced as well. That's my plan with Erling Haaland. I still think I'm going to bring him in. We'll, of course, have a little bit more discussion throughout the week regarding Haaland and whether or not it's going to be worth it. But I think if you are going to be captaining him, he is probably going to be justifying that price point. And that is kind of the narrative that I've sold throughout the whole of this season. If you have Haaland, you've got to be captaining most weeks. Otherwise, he's not really going to be returning value for money, considering how much you're spending on him, and of course how much you can get with other players elsewhere within the side. Let me know your thoughts on Haaland down in the comments section. Let's move on though to 2 Forest players that I'm actually looking at for my team. Now, obviously, this would be for Palmer down to one of these cheap guys. The Ipswich fixture, again, people on free hits also might be looking at either Hudson, Odoi or Elanga. Hudson Odoi, of course, got himself the goal today. Very fortunate, I feel, of course, with Edison making a little bit of a howler. And as you can see, his underlying data is absolutely pish. There's not really too much going off over the past 5 game weeks as well. I don't think his minutes are really there either. Quite a few sparse substitutions appearances. So I don't think he's personally going to be an option, but I know some people will be looking at him with, of course, the fixture next week, Ipswich away, scoring today as well, and did look good in moments. But I just think that data isn't quite there. And the reason that I prefer Elanga is not because his data's miles better. That's not the case. It's marginal better. It's not, blowing me away, though. However, the big thing that I like with Anthony Elanga is there's been a little bit of a switch in terms of the Forest kind of set piece takers for corners and free kicks. And Elanga has actually stepped above Morgan Gibbs-White. That is the main reason I like him. Forest are a team as well that do really, really well from set plays as well. That's why we're seeing Mikalenkovic section a few slides ago that we saw with his really strong projected expected goal involvement above the likes of Kirkes and rivaling people like Ait Nouri is purely because Forest are very, very good at set plays. And I think that could be the route that we go with Anthony Elanga for me personally, if you are looking at that cheaper midfield price. Of course, there are other alternatives, but I know some people will be looking at the Forest midfielders with that delicious fixture coming up against Ipswich. Anthony Elanga is the choice for me over Hudson Odoi, purely down to the fact of those set pieces and the way that Forest play. I just think he's going to be the better pick rather than going for Hudson Odoi, despite him scoring in the City fixture today. Right, before we finish up today's video, let's take a look at the predicted points then over the next 5 game weeks. Obviously, Erling Haaland is top. I do feel like the game week 29 and game week 30 fixtures are definitely going to be helping him in terms of this metric. Alexander Isak, obviously there's a big debate. Do we sell Isak for Haaland this week or do we keep Isak? It's such a difficult decision and one that I'm going to have to make with my own team. But Isak is going to be one of those players that I probably will want in game week 30 and won't be able to have him, which would be absolutely devastating. But of course, he will be back on the wildcard in 31. Ahead of the doubles as well in 32, which is why his predicted points are looking really, really good. Salah and Palmer pretty much there as well, as to be expected. Then we've kind of got other alternative names in there as well. Foden probably again down to the fixtures in 29 and 30. And Buemo, a player we've not actually spoken about, but again, I don't think I'd maybe be considering him. I know they've got an okayish fixture in 29. Post that, I think we would be looking at other alternatives. However, Chris Wood could be a decent shout as well for the people looking for a striker this week with Ipswich. And of course, not a bad fixture in game week 30. I spoke about Arsenal's, of course, strong clean sheet numbers coming up over the next few weeks, and Gabriel is on this list. Like I said, he is the highest defender. He's the only defender I actually can see on this list, to be honest. Just having a quick scan down the rest. Yeah, can't really see another defender, and that's why I think he could be a great shout. But the only reason I didn't include him in today's video is I feel like most people already own Gabriel or some sort of Arsenal defender, but definitely worth some consideration for me over the next few weeks, as we saw with the 11-5 projected numbers as well. That is going to call time on today's transfer targets videos. Of course, if you did enjoy the content, make sure you like and subscribe in, all that good stuff, and I will see you in the next one.